Hi, folks. Dr. Jim Gishwin here. I just had to laugh. We had some thunderstorms around here, and I gave the girls, my two little girls here, fur babies, a ride like I normally do after school. And just as we were getting to that front door after we got home, a big thunder boomer hit, and they jumped about a mile high. Swear to God. Anyway, back to business here. Last few days of school, and I've had to prepare some things. And in cultural geography, of course, I had to explain to them. I said, look at all these countries in Africa and Southeast Asia that flirted with Marxism and socialism, and the countries in South America. Within 2 years, they had to give it up and sit there and try something else. It failed. Okay? It's failed every time, folks. Okay? Now, you're talking about the immigration down here at the southern border and how many Chinese are coming across that are fighting age males. I know some of you are really worried about that. I am too. Not that I'm worried that I couldn't take one, in a one-to-one. But anyway, Chinese have done this before. After they took over Tibet and the Dalai Lama went into government in exile in India, they did something, and they termed it population transfer. They sat there and paid Chinese immigrant settlers into Tibet, okay, their people, into Tibet. They paid their way. They set them up in business or whatever they were going to do, and it was called population transfer. All right, and eventually, the immigrant Chinese outnumbered the native Tibetans. Okay, I remember back when I was younger, we had those college protesters out there going, "Free Tibet, free Tibet, free the Dalai Lama." Okay, you don't hear that much anymore, but that's a lesson we can learn. The Chinese have done this before. They might be doing it again. They got almost half the world's population, for God's sake, in that area of the world. I'm sure they could sit there and accomplish something like that without hurting their population one bit. That's why during the Korean War, they were very much into mass wave attacks, not caring how many of their people, their soldiers or their volunteers, got killed. And you Korean War veterans can remember that. Okay? Anyway, if you noticed in the news, a lot of things going on. The news is actually starting to become the news. You had one guy sitting there right in front of Pelosi, after she said that no one has ever questioned elections before. This was terrible. This is undemocratic. They have questioned elections for 20 years. They got someone in Georgia that still claims that she's the governor. Okay? And this guy that she was interviewing or talking to sat there and read off a list of all the things, all the elections the Democrats had questioned. Okay? And it's true. For 20 years. For God's sake, they had the dailies down, helping them out during the Florida thing back in 2000. All right? They, remember this. The ends always justifies the means with them. Okay? They don't care what you think. They'll never ask you what you think. They don't care what you think. It's power to them. Power, power, power. And they'll do anything. In fact, run you over with a bus, not put you under the bus. Okay? Just to accomplish their goals. And that's the world international communist thing. That's the way they've always been. And if you think those communists went into the woodwork after the Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union fell, forget it. They did not. They were around. In fact, the guy that started Greenpeace quit because he said they kind of took over his organization. The guy that founded it complained about it. They are doing anything they can to destroy capitalism, even though they've had to adopt a lot of capitalism just to survive, like Red China. Speaking of Red China, I've mentioned that to people that are middle-aged people, fellow Americans, fellow veterans, and I've had a couple of them sit there and look at me and say, "What's Red China? What do you mean Red China?" I said, "Yeah, there's two Chinas." Says you got the nationalist Chinese that Mao chased onto that island, and you got the Red Chinese. Of course, the Red Chinese keep saying that if Taiwan ever tries to declare itself independent, it will invade. Just like Putin keeps saying that if Ukraine goes into NATO, he will use nukes. Okay? And if you think Putin wants to stop at Ukraine, think again. He's an old commie. He's an old commie now. He was KGB colonel or general. I don't know what he was. Colonel, general, doesn't matter. It's high up there anyway. That meant they had a lot of power. And so he's into the power thing too. Okay? Of course, the oligarchy, the Russian mafia that runs the Russians right now, he has to kowtow to them. He's basically the head of the oligarchies. Okay? But they all gang up and tell him whether or not he's doing well. So yeah, he has someone to account to. More than he did under communism, that's for sure. Oh my Lord. My little girls, you did another one? Oh Lordy, that is terrible. I need to take you to the vet. Lord Almighty. Hey. Well, I'll try and hurry this up. Now I gotta. Anyway, do not trust them. Even the media, don't trust them, even though it seems like they're sitting there getting back to news reporting. Okay? It's American, by the way, and don't you ever be ashamed of questioning an election, especially local ones. Sometimes they're the most corrupt. Okay? And it's called trickle-down. Trickle-down corruption. Gets corrupt in D.C., it'll trickle down. Okay? So I'm going to sit there and say, please, remember to vote. I'm going to be working the polls down here in Florida. Remember to vote and remember to pray a lot. Okay? And China has been waging a war against us. And that's the mistake we made in 9/11. When Al-Qaeda and the rest of them, these imams, declared a holy war on us, a Fatah on us, we said, oh, well, that's an organization. That don't count. That's not a country declaring war on us. So we'll just ignore that a little bit and just deal with these terrorists. No. When they declare a war on you, you better believe it. And China has even sat there and openly admitted it to its citizens. And China is mobilizing. They are something that we have to deal with, and we're going to deal with them, you betcha, if Trump gets back in. Okay? If Trump doesn't get back in, we're going to be in World War III. Because Biden has taken us right over the cliff. Okay? Everything he does is screwed up. I forget who it was that said this. I think it was Bob Gates. Used to be deputy director of the CIA and then director of the CIA when Bill Casey, with his brain cancer, had to leave. He once said that Joe Biden has never been on the right side of history in his life. He was the one, remember, that told him not to go after bin Laden. So he's got a lot of mistakes in his life. Let's hope that he doesn't drag us down with his next mistake. With that, I'll say, let's have some prayers. God bless you. I love you all. I remain your humble servant.